In case you weren't aware, there is a crisis in cosmology right now, and I use the term crisis very loosely there. Essentially, we have two main methods for working out the rate that the
I'm just gonna let that play in the background, some orbital out there. It's happening. And again, I wish I could show you this map. It's a good one. My run charts here, my meters per second, for feet per second, for time dilation systems. Just realistically giving yourself, open the book, see the front page where the bones is, where the skull is on the other one. I didn't go there. I could have done an ultramarine, I could have done some stuff, but I thought a nice little run speed is a practical car, a 22 and a 50-pound bow arrow gives you some feet speeds. Like, plus with Bones book, if you're running speed, walk speed, learn to walk again, throw a ball, there's a reason for those things, which we'll be getting into later. Beautiful map, scaled to 2,000 feet to an inch, and that is a 5.5 by 3.25, 3 and something like that, 3.5, roughly thereabouts. I tried my best to keep it around 6,500 feet, and about a mile and a half, 2-mile scope. That's how it works here. I had to make it work, and it's all gridded out on a nice little section. The town names on the two lists, the Salty and Bones list, the police station and DOT run police station, high school, elementary school, bridge crew, power grid, Oral's garage, pick your friends that you'll be commonly just bumping into frequently all the way down that line to the retirement home. As a census of 2010, roughly, me looking at one out there, from 3,224 people. That's me adjusting to an old number. When the other numbers come in, they're actually set to 2,000. But it works to a math problem. I want you to understand anyways by implementing those censuses, those JWST numbers that say, okay, we were running some stuff, so it might not be 73 parsecs anymore, but 73 parsecs always works. And when you're doing that, it works fine. Then the next rung on that ladder is going to be the James, you're going to put something up in orbit there for a minute here. And so, again, to those Warhammer structures, E1, E2, E3, 4, E5, E6, that's just your bars and rockers. You got 1 bar, 2 bars, 3 bars, 3 bars, 1 rocker, 3 bars, 2 rockers, 3 bars, and if you wanted to go to an E8, because you're at E2, 2 plus 6 is going to be, it's a weird number like that, but there's a reason, because between the $13 to $18 an hour range, anybody can do that, and as a 40-hour click, that's the main thing, because we get into that in the census number, who's above, who's below, what jobs do we have on those lists that are hard-lined, how is that the main camp, are all those things firing off to show off some anomalies. Part-time labor is an FX system, wave function X, wave function Y, wave function Z, and we actually do the weak force version X, FX, X, F, Y, F, Z in the top right corner here. And it's got some math equations in there, and again, I'm using these math equations as thaumatistic psychological triggers. Okay, you're going to read these: derivative A, derivative B, derivative C, sigma. And I'm going to walk you through that here. Sigma, environment, XY. I need that on the line. Workforce over weak force to rock on pallet, rock over pallet, pallets, hours, however that triangulation is going to work later. It's going to give us a different tensor inside of there. If you can't do rock on pallet, then we're going to do graphing teams, and it wouldn't just be one. You can do one. It can be the quantum limit. It could be the CMB, essentially, Superman or Krypton's gene seed over there, as far as figuring it out. But in the weak force, just how, because if you've listened to my numbers about the pallets and the 13 to 18 and the $20 an hour to $30 an hour over a 40K base with no overtime, just super clean, are going to give you some crises here in a little bit. those are higher numbers, but they go to an order of 1 to 10, right? If it's logged out right, then you should get something in the neighborhood, and those are also time equity positions. If 60K, then you're still catching 2 years at least in the or 2 players for at least the $13 or $15 an hour, and you might not be worth it anymore. You don't do it. It was great that you set out some books and you got the first couple of years. That doubles your time equity. Try to rock it in that 40 to 50K. Stay within your line in a 30 to 40K area with populations and average medium incomes and things to consider, poverty lines, and elderly. So this part-time game is also going to give you some other systems. If this is a 20K, you're still looking at 14, 15, and 18K for what it costs for a year. Who is worth what? What is the marshmallow exchange on elderly conditions, handicapped, or something that I have to have certain basis levels of the CPI later in grocery stores. Into what the system will do when we integrate functioning of the dominion or an ascension of that dominion. Supernova observations to get at the rate of expansion. So it's real pretty. Wave function, sigmas, omegas, alphas, lambdas, lowercase omegas, lowercase deltas. And it's real pretty in lowercase form of delta. What am I talking about? Little delta. When I'm actually using a rocker as a delta, because it's an E2, it's a change, right? You could say the delta is change or a derivative or a lot of things that go into there. Well, it's a kid, it's a symbol. If A, capital form, gravity, or lambda. When they use that symbol, they're using it as a gauge boson. We're saying the frequency of how the things work in this closed-off environment is exclusionary to orders of operations. When we say in the first order, we're working the whiteboard. In the second order, the police station and the DOT crew. FX. Pallet, a rock on pallet. And then weak force, right? What kind of tasks are we doing? Can I get an over the 65? 15 to 20, 20 to 35, 35 to 65, because it gives me 50 years right there, right? And over 65 is kind of out of my department. Stay in the lodge. The American Legion Hall there. To get your nearby distances, which then calibrate stay out of my way. The galaxies that you found supernova in. Then some cool things about those closed surface integrals. As you get older, hopefully, you're gonna have to go through this. Why you're not in E3, E4 in the 40K range. Concerning. And when I back that down to you did that for a long time, you got some time equity. Realistically, where you live inside of a month, can I take this down a notch? Are we talking $1,000 a month is $250 a week? It's got to cover food, electricity, medical bills, baby, dog, whatever Uncle Sam allows on the list of things that you can really have on this system that resolved. Optics, right? When we're looking at the electron microscope here, we're aligning some things up, and we're also moments are like resistance. Fuzzy is resistance. It's not a clean image of the black hole. So there's some dark matters in there. There's some crises as far as the calculation. Telling you, it is what I want it to be at that level of functioning mathematically. So Feynman, Carl Sagan, and Dr. Becky here, she can rip down this paper and do this. See, this stuff is going to do what this stuff does. Okay, there's a lot of wave function in there, 15 to 65, got one palette, or a triple integral palette, somebody who can just do rock on palette, that's 13. I mean, I'm not going to whip you. I can't take it to slave labor like that before we're talking about the median income and the older and younger wave function X to pallets and whatever we're putting on that pack. Weak force over workforce, AX plus or derivative X plus derivative B equals derivative C, and derivative X plus derivative Y equals derivative Z in sigma. Sigma up top, xy equals 0. On bottom, sigma x squared plus y squared equals 1. Well, alphabetically, A goes to Z. Now, we could bracket that, and somebody might kick up something about the FX system.
Now, only one of their galaxies has been observed so far. It was back on the
And those are a few different wave functions, like 20 hours in one day, wave function, psi, omega, $400 a day. I decided to give you, if you did a one-day hit and you're 20 hours, right, or whatever's close to $400 worth of work like that for grinding it hard, that's a $20 an hour set, because $20 an hour times 20 hours is $400. Now, we still didn't factor tax or anything like that in there. It may not be perfect to the polarization that's going down in there, but it was just one day. The contract hadn't got into anything 10 days, or 10 hours in 2 days, 5 hours in 4 days, 4 hours in 5 days, and those would be your cleanest logarithms before you got to log h over x squared to x Planck over 7 days, right? Just useful. 7 days gives you 52, gives you nice easy things we can all remember, to 270 to 360 over 1 week. Somewhere's in there, I'm logging hours, and I get that's a wave function that each point on that system is tracking it. And then sigma upside down omega equals sigma f. Why would I do that instead of backwards in it and doing a bunch of other things? Well, it's an integral high and low of x. That's in a sigma omega. Integral x is 1/2, right? We're just saying that's delta, rise over run, in the first wave function of pallets to an $18 an hour pallets, wrap it, do everything inside of that hour. Just to figure it out, it's probably going to take you an hour and a half. I applied wave function x as pallet over 1 hour. That is at the top end of an 18 plus wrapped and everything. Now, if you're just learning of $13.50, it would take you just to stack rock on there in a 48 by 48 by 36 inch tall pallet, just about an hour, and you'll be set up everything else. Then you're in the middle, 15. You can do pallets, you can do everything, but you're not really catching those bag tagged and wrapped in the $18 an hour, $20 an hour range, where that was just part time, right? Because the body at that point in time, pallet and rocks, too high comparatively to FY, task and demand. So we're gonna, when you get to those omegas and those triple integral closed surface at the 20 hour, log 1/2 at, what is that, epsilon there, to the lowercase of wave omega wave function there, voltage, ohms, amps, that. So I'm really intrigued to see what that program that's designed. Those are the heavier sets that now you're not part-time anymore. Now you're starting to be well-classed. There's a little delta in there, which is going to be those longer hours. You're now worth it inside of the mill, clocked in, clocked out. FZ, just being there or not being there, you make enough money and you solve enough problems. AG, learning greater but equal to labor, and a derivative U, which is math is a fist fight. You're equal but not equal to a fist fight. And so those are your Wake Forest numbers to those really heavy numbers where you're talking about the lower form of ohms, the lambda, epsilon stuff. That's pretty heavy. Why we shift over to those increments of wave functions, because if there's a pattern to them, they're going to follow those rules. So that's my note. Keep some stuff in mind. Catch you on the next one.